Hey everyone, I'm Rather Incoherent, and today I want to talk about Runic Axe and Roland Banks. Two cards that both have immense promise of how good they can be, and that fall short of it. Runic Axe a little bit, Roland Banks a lot. Now, as you can see, I've hashtagged this Berserker, and I've also hashtagged this Banned. This is my first draft of the deck, and this video was originally very different, because the build I came up with is super promising. Because one of the ways you can mitigate the fact that Ancient Power will run you out of charges instantly is by just holding two axes. But this generically named two-handed melee asset has an asterisk next to it that I just didn't notice at all. And I had already made this video and recorded it and edited it and uploaded it, and then I got this comment. I was like, oh no, you have to be kidding me. And he's not, it's the truth. And you can come over to a card like Time Worn Brand that seems infinitely more unique. And I guess you could argue it's a paradox and you're able to hold two copies of it from different points in time because they're time traveling weapons. But really it's just the same case as what happened with True Magic, right? This asterisk doesn't have anything to do with the item itself being unique. This is just a book or being really good at magic. It's sort of unclear what True Magic is, but it's a generic thing. It's not actually unique. This is game balance. Twilight Catherine Price exists and works with True Magic, so this doesn't really work. But coming over to Runic Axe, the game balance here actually does make sense. Bandolier double Runic Axe is actually a busted build, and I'm going to get into why in a second. First, I want to demonstrate that it's reliable. Roland Banks has Seeker cards. Mark Harrigan exists. You can make a deck that will reliably draw your second Runic Axe, and just one Runic Axe is good enough to hold you over till then. When you come down to the customizations, you can take Ancient Power to imbue the same inscription up to 3 times. Script Weaver so that you can imbue 2 inscriptions with each charge, and then you can also take Saga to get 2 charges back per turn. Now, normally with Saga, what you're looking at is essentially every round you get to attack twice with both accuracy and power, with +1/+2 for a total of +3 fists and 2 damage. That's basically Super Machete. It's a pretty good weapon. And then in case you find something that's really threatening, you want to use something else. You want to have Survival Knives or Brand of Cthulhu. You want to have some other way of dealing damage than just the Runic Axe in case you need a big burst of damage or something like that. Ancient Power here is initially very tempting, but with just one axe as your only way of fighting, if you're running Ancient Power, you're very likely to bottom up that axe on charges very, very quickly. Whereas just using the Saga swing for 2 at +3, that lets you swing 8 consecutive times, 3 on turn 1, 3 on turn 2, and 2 on turn 3 before you eventually run out of charges. So here's the thing, if you run 2 copies of Runic Axe, you essentially get to spend twice as many charges and last the same amount of time. And with 2 charges for accuracy and power twice each, with Script Weaver, that's +5 for 3. That's a lightning gun. Dual-wielding Runic Axes is infinite use lightning gun. So yes, that's why there is an asterisk here, that's why this is unique. They have game testers who are good at their job, they found this build before me, and they have already killed it. Berserker Roland is just not going to happen, but that doesn't mean it can't be the inspiration for some other better ideas. Okay, better ideas is wrong. Legal ideas that you're allowed to play. These ideas will be inferior to double Runic Axe, but this deck did have some problems, which is why it's marked Rough Draft. And I'll show some changes I made and then what eventually happened as I realized that I couldn't even use Bandoliers. So let's talk about the upsides of this build in general, and then what I think is wrong with it. Some obvious upsides. Roland Banks is the fighter who gets clues for doing their job. Not as many as you would think, because he's also the fighter that makes you waste clues. But on average, he's probably giving you at least 3 clues a scenario. He can help out your Cleaver with Practice Makes Perfect into deductions and perceptions. This allows him to cycle his own deck faster, help get clues throughout a scenario, and take the initiative as there as filler to help with Mythos resistance. It's just a very nice card in general for pretty much every fighter, but especially fighters with PMP. While we're looking at the support side of things, you have Stand Together 3s, and you could theoretically Deep Knowledge somebody else. And then in addition, he has 5 Brain Soak, 3 Head, and a weakness that can give him mental traumas. It's not likely, but it's possible. So I'm very worried about his Mental Soak, about his Sanity Soak rather, and that's why I'm running Xavier's, Mori's, and Something Worth Fighting For. This allows me to soak for my team meaningfully, give them utility there. Howled Mirror 3 is essentially the same thing, just retroactively. And this completely solves the problem I'm having while also providing meaningful support to my team. So I'm helping get clues, I'm helping to keep the team alive, and once my stuff's online, which I should do relatively fast with a load of draw, then I'm going to be great at fighting. Basically, if you're shooting a lightning gun, for 8 consecutive actions, your fighter can't be bad. Like, it's just impossible to not excel at your role at that point. And we have machetes as backup weapons. But let's talk about the issues with this deck has, because there are some. First, Hallowed Mirror, Xavier's, Mori's, and something worth fighting for is overkill. This is for team utility beyond just keeping Roland alive, and it's definitely something I can afford to sack and something I need to sack, because this machete isn't a backup weapon. If you go into like any second half of a campaign scenario at 4 fists with a machete, no beat cops, no taros, no nothing, just swinging at 5, no skills for fighting either, that's not actually a backup weapon. That just doesn't work. It's not even like a standard difficulty strat. That doesn't even work on standard. So as cool as machete is, it's not this good. I'm overestimating it, and I either need a better backup weapon or more consistent draw to hit the Runic Axe. And the target for cuts and changes is all of this soak package. Now, coming over to an updated Berserker build, you can see that I've cut the machetes because they weren't working as a backup in the first place, and then I've cut a lot of my soak package. I've changed out my Xaviers for Mr. Rooks, and I've cut the Something Worth Fighting For entirely. Mr. Rook helps you more consistently find Runic Axe, and once you start running this, you can start running Astounding Revelations because you also have Practice Makes Perfect. I've got a one-of Captivating Discovery. It's going to search your deck to trigger Astounding Revelation. You can get a clue on Roland easily enough. You can do your own Investigate with this 3-book and Practice Makes Perfect at a lower shroud location to find clues to trigger this. So it's not too hard to get Captivating Discovery to go off on yourself. But generally the goal of the deck just changes to more consistently hit these Runic Axes. However, something that stands out to me is that these Tetsuo Moris maybe need to be beat comps. If you only have one Runic Axe, then you probably can't afford to swing at +5 every time, which means you'll be swinging at +3, which is only a 7. I'd be way more comfortable at 8s. On standard difficulty though, it's like riding the line of what's allowable as a fight number. And then leaving all the banned stuff behind and coming over to a deck that I'm actually allowed to play with, we can see that I've cut the Bandoliers, and what have I added? I've added a Captivating Discovery and a copy of Enchant Weapon. Enchant Weapon, if you're always using Script Weaver for accuracy and power on Runic Axe, is essentially another charge of Runic Axe per turn. That's basically what it's doing here. So we are down from 4 charges to 3 charges per turn, but that's still more than 2 charges. That's still enough that every single turn, you can swing Runic Axe as a lightning gun, followed by swinging it at +4 for 2 damage. You can do that literally forever, and if you're at 4 charges, you can have a much, much bigger turn than that. It also gives the ability to swing Runic Axe for 5 damage at +10, which is disgusting overkill, but it is an option you have. And on the whole, I think Enchant Weapon is a nice way of rounding out the Runic Axe, with 2 copies of Mr. Rook, Astounding Revelations, Captivating Discoveries, Deep Knowledges, the sheer amount of draw in this deck. Like, this is Roland, I am going to draw the Axe Banks. If he doesn't draw the Axe, the deck fails. This is incredibly greedy. But I've also embraced the fact that, like the previous deck, if it drew the machete, wasn't actually doing its job anyway. I would definitely like to run beat cops over this Tetsuo Mori, which makes you better if you bottom out on charges because you have beat cops to tap for damage, you're attacking at 8 instead of 7. There's a variety of reasons that Tetsuo Mori is worse than a beat cop. His ability to search for the axe doesn't matter much because if he's getting killed by something, like an enemy, you probably needed this axe already. So Tetsuo Mori is not great here, but I'm not sure what ally I would rather instead, and I don't think I have the experience to fit beat cops in this deck, because even though beat cops are directly helping my role, I sort of need the economy of Stand Together, and I really want to upgrade it for the draw to help find the axe, and I'm not sure what else is even cuttable. The issue is just like, Guardian decks are just short on experience, man. Stick to the planned charismas like in every single Guardian list, and it just hurts. I think if I wanted beat cops, I would have to cut the Stand Togethers, and I'm not convinced the deck has that kind of money. Oh wait, we've added Astounding Revelation. I can afford to cut Stand Together now. That's actually a really good point. I forgot this does more than thin your deck, because that's like really the reason I wanted it, but it totally does do something very valuable that we immediately care about. And now with the removal of Stand Together, we have well and truly left the realm of a support deck. The only thing we're doing to help our team at all is running some insurance for them with Hallowed Mirror and Tetsuo Mori, and helping them out on the clue front. We definitely contribute to our team, but we're a much more selfish deck, and we're a much less powerfully offensive deck than this first version, where you have infinite lightning guns you soak for your team. But this first version also lived a lot. Machete's not actually a backup weapon here. I would honestly rather have beat cops and empty hands than a machete. I'm swinging for the same numbers essentially, but I can testlessly exhaust the beat cops to deal damage. They give me soak. These are a better backup weapon than a machete. And we still have Roland's 38 special as a 1-hit for a backup weapon, which is definitely nice to have. But yeah, I think I really like this list. Removing Stand Together is the thing that finally makes everything click. Cutting Stand Together 3 from any fighter deck, from any Guardian deck, always hurts me a lot, because it's just one of the best cards in the game. But in a class where you have to spend experience on weapons, you have to get Stick to the Plan, you have to get Charisma. And technically, none of those things are true. But you're buying an upgraded weapon, it's your job, you're buying a Charisma, you're gonna need the Soak, and you're buying Stick to the Plan, it's one of the best cards in the game. So adding Stand Together in addition to all that, the deck just gets so expensive, you don't have the room to breathe that I feel like I need to do dumb stuff like put Enchant Weapon and a PMP setup for my teammates into the deck. Anyways, this has been a brief video about an interesting home for how to use Runic Axe with the Ancient Power inscription, what sort of things like Enchant Weapon and Beat Cops you can think of as essentially being additional charges on the axe every turn, ways to provide team utility in Roland Banks by getting more clues by helping out your Kluver. This deck definitely wants to be run alongside a book-based Kluver. If you put him alongside anyone who's investigating with foot or head, you're gonna have a bad time. This Practice Makes Perfect setup is a lot better on teammates than it is on you. And the deck does still have some team utility, but not very much. It's on the low end. But I mean, I've got Hallowed Mirror. That automatically puts me in the top half of the pack for being a team utility deck, right? Anyway, that's gonna be it for now. This has been a brief video on Roland and how I've been trying to build him to get him to live up to that promise of finding more clues and using yellow consistency to find something really strong really quickly. And it's also been a video about how Runic Axe and Ancient Power runs you out of charges immediately, and how you can get around that, and how past playtesters have already found out the #1 answer and banned it. But I do still think by looking at things like Beat Cops and Enchant Weapons as additional charges per turn on the Runic Axe, you can get to a point where if your deck is consistently finding this axe before enemies show up, you're in a great spot. And I think Roland is there. His backup weapon, I think, makes him better at this than a Mark Harrigan would be, even though Mark Harrigan will have better draw. Anyways, that's it for now. This has been my memorial for Berserker Roland, a deck that died before it could ever get played. If you liked the video, then like, comment, subscribe. All that stuff really does help the channel grow. And I'll see you in the next one.